Welcome, everybody. My name is Oliver Libby. I'm the chair of the board and one of the co-founders of the Resolution Project, and I'm very happy to welcome you today to a very exciting day, Resolution's very first digital format social venture challenge. We are so excited to welcome some incredibly inspiring young leaders in the making who are going to be presenting today, and we are sending them all the best of luck as they prepare for their presentations. Just want to spend a couple of minutes introducing the organization and our wonderful judges before we get started. I do want to pause for a moment. Today, we are meeting under the challenging circumstances of what's going on around the United States and the world today, between the coronavirus and the social unrest that we've seen. And we will not be discussing that a lot today, except for to say that it is exactly this activity, finding young leaders who are prepared to take action, be socially responsible entrepreneurs, and bring change to their communities, that gives me and our entire community immense hope. And I'm very, very happy to be able to share this with you all today, both those who are directly on here and also on our Facebook live stream. Welcome, everyone. As a brief introduction to our organization, the Resolution Project is just over 10 years old. We are one of the largest organizations in the world focused on helping undergraduate students launch their own social ventures all around the world. We're active today in more than 20 states in the United States, as well as almost 80 countries around the world in every inhabited continent. There are well over 500 Resolution Fellows who begin their trajectory with us as undergraduate students with an idea to change their communities, and they have started ventures that have impacted almost 3 million lives. And if you're wondering out there what sorts of social ventures we support, you will find that almost any kind of social impact is being undertaken by Resolution Fellows today. So whether you care about the environment and renewable energy, education, women's empowerment, and financial inclusion, uplifting communities, this work is being done by Resolution Fellows somewhere around the world. We are extremely pleased to be welcoming an extraordinary group of judges with us today, all of them veterans of Social Venture Challenges past and longtime veterans of our organization as well. To begin with, a member of our board of directors and a wonderful friend to the organization, Dr. Bill Provine. Dr. Provine is founder and currently serves as the first president and CEO of the Delaware innovation space, where he works on innovation with exciting companies in Delaware and beyond. He also hails from a long career at DuPont, where he led global operations for science and engineering and the open innovation practice at one of the most innovative companies in the world. He's also a committee leader for several committees in the American Association for the Advancement of Science, and serves on a number of federal government committees for the U.S. Department of Commerce, the DOE, the USDA, and more. And of course, he's on the board of the Resolution Project, which is his favorite thing to do. Hi, Bill. We're also welcoming the wonderful Edna Otto. She's a business strategist at Morgan Stanley. She previously worked at UBS Investment Bank in both New York and London. She was born and raised in Ghana and moved to the US to pursue joint undergraduate degrees in business management, finance, and economics at Stony Brook. Edna is also an MBA from the University of Oxford's Said Business School, and she's been a veteran of our organization for a long time. And then finally, Tanya Perkins is passionate about making sure that people, processes, and technology are in place so systems can work effectively. She is currently serving as chief operating officer of a very exciting telehealth startup called Tembo Health, headquartered right here in New York. She also directed operations for years at the Federal Reserve's Treasury Desk, which is a very complicated task and really speaks to her immense organizational and product-oriented capabilities. She advises early-stage entrepreneurs and has founded companies and nonprofits, including one that's been running for the better part of 2 decades now. And of course, she's an advisory board member of the Resolution Project, and like Bill, one of the true fabric of our community who helps us hold this entire wonderful endeavor together. So these are wonderful judges. I am, of course, with you as well. My judging goes back to the very first Resolution Social Venture Challenge back in March of 2009. And professionally, I run an impact-focused venture capital firm. So I'm honored always to be on the judging panel with these fine folks. Let me turn things over now to Rachel Brophy, who is our Director of Program at the Resolution Project. Rachel and the staff, by the way, have put immense work into making this Digital Social Venture Challenge possible. Nothing will stop Resolution Project to keep doing good work around the world, and it is because of Rachel, the staff, and the folks who've been involved in putting this together that we can do that. Rachel's going to share a little bit more about how today's going to run, the rules of the game, and then get us started with our first presentation. So Rachel and all of your team on the program side, thank you so much.
Thank you, Oliver. We are extremely excited about this first virtual social venture challenge for Resolution. Very appreciative of our judging panel today, as well as our participants. We're excited to hear your pitches. For those of you who are joining us via the live stream, we hope that you enjoy this pitch as much as we do, as those who get to travel and see many of these pitches around the world each year. Just a couple of logistics. Competitors have 20 minutes to pitch. That's 7 minutes for the pitch, and we encourage 13 minutes for the Q&A. I will be keeping track of time, and on the chat function for those who are on the call, that's for competitors and judges, you will see that I'll give a time check at 6 minutes, another at 7, and then again at 19 to let you know you have a minute left, and I will be ending it exactly at 20. Competitors, if you go over those 7 minutes, we're not going to stop you, but that does weigh into the time that the judges have for the Q&A, and that's incredibly important. There's a lot of questions that need to be addressed in that moment, and giving the judges enough time to be able to ask those questions really makes it possible for us to be able to evaluate your pitch and decide whether or not we're ready to offer you a fellowship at this point. So please do pay attention to that chat and keep track of time. It's important for competitors to also understand at this point in the competition, they're not competing against each other. We can award fellowships to everyone who's pitching. So if you're on the call and you see someone else pitching, they're not your competition at this point, so please feel free to cheer them on. Be excited about what they're pitching and the change that they want to make in the world. Finally, for competitors, please focus on the solution and not the problem. At this point in the competition, you've submitted an action plan, you've been vetted previously. We do know that the issue you're addressing is a problem. We want to hear about how you're addressing it. So please make sure to focus most of your presentation on your solution rather than convincing us that the issue you're addressing is in fact a problem. And finally, some logistics. Antoinette from our team will be advancing the slides that you've already submitted. So she'll be sharing her screen. So please make sure to say next when you want her to advance to the next slide. If you need to go back for whatever reason, you're able to say back. And with that, that's all of the logistics. Again, I will be keeping time on the chat. So be sure to look for that. Again, you'll get a 6-minute warning and a 7-minute warning. And then we encourage you to stop at that point just to make sure that the judges have enough time to ask the important questions that they have to ask.
Rachel, I'm just going to pop in with one other thing. This is our first digital format social venture challenge, and I know all the competitors are here on Zoom. It's an interesting format for these sorts of presentations, and we just want to let you know we're going to ask some tough questions, and this is, of course, a new format for everybody, but we're really supportive of all of the things that you're going to share with us today. It's very brave to get up and do this and to share your ideas for changing the world, so know that all of our questions and this entire competition is in celebration of the work that you're proposing to do to change the world and your communities. So we just wanted to, before we dive into the competition, let you know it's always a little nerve-wracking to get up there and pitch in this way, especially on Zoom, but we're rooting for you. And when we ask you tough questions, it's because we all want to make sure that your projects are most ready for the world.
Fantastic. And with that, we're ready for our first team, which is Bay Foods. Precious, you're able to compete now. And then Antoinette, if you're able to start the slideshow. Okay, and Precious, when you're ready, you can start.
Thank you very much. Hello, my name is Precious Nemtensi, and I'm here presenting with Andrew Akwaku. Together we are Team Bear Foods. Next slide, please. Did you know that worldwide, 2 billion people suffer from hidden hunger, a lack of essential diet? Next, please. Our project is focusing on 2 target locations, Ghana and Zimbabwe. In Zimbabwe, 27% of the children below the ages of 5 suffer from malnutrition. And in Ghana, every year, 55,000 children below the age of 5 die from chronic malnutrition. Next slide, please. Our solution to these problems is Bare Foods, a social enterprise that is dedicated to strengthening childhood health and nutrition by providing fresh, nutritious, and natural foods. Our mission is to reduce micronutrient deficiencies through the provision of fresh and as well as value-added products derived from the orange flesh sweet potatoes, which are rich in essential nutrients. Although a common crop in the Western countries, the orange flesh sweet potato varieties are still a new thing in our African countries. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. The orange flesh sweet potato is a superfood, which is rich in vitamin A, C, E, as well as potassium and natural fiber. Just a portion of 150 grams is able to supply the daily vitamin A requirements of a child below 5, thus protecting them from blindness. Besides, it is an ideal crop for smallholder farmers because it's highly adapted in Africa, it is drought tolerant, and it matures very quickly within 3 months, and it is a low maintenance crop. Next slide, please. Our project implementation consists of 2 different approaches for Ghana and Zimbabwe due to the differences in needs and culture and economies. In Zimbabwe, we discovered that there's still a gap in the primary production of the orange flesh sweet potatoes. So we are going to be focusing mainly on the primary production, starting off on a 1 hectare piece of land, targeting an output of 30 tons per hectare, and we are going to have 3 cycles per year. The plots shall be divided into different portions, and we shall be rotating the planting dates. We shall also be multiplying and supplying the orange flesh sweet potato vines or the planting materials to local farmers. And from the harvest, with the sweet potatoes which do not meet the market requirements or the ugly roots, we shall process them into flour using a very simple solar dryer and using the services of the local millers. And on the long term, we plan to partner with other smallholder farmers who are producing sweet potato and form a cooperative for the export markets. Next slide, please. There is a market opportunity in Zimbabwe for the fresh orange flesh sweet potatoes, and we shall be supplying mainly boarding schools, supermarkets, farmers markets, and directly to the customer through home deliveries using an online platform. Our flour shall be supplied to the local bakery chains. Next slide, please. My colleague Andrew is going to take part of. Okay, it seems we can't get hold of Andrew, so I'll just continue.
Okay, I'm here. Okay, I'm here. Okay, so in Ghana, we are providing fresh sweet potato foods and snacks, like most fast foods. By making fast puree porridge, juice, and smoothie, we are able to reach a larger market with the orange flesh sweet potatoes. The mobile stores will serve as kitchen and stores where we make these fast foods and sell them. By using the mobile stores, we are able to produce fresh puree porridge, juice, and smoothie. And by using this approach, we are able to reach our target customers in schools, universities, health centers, and community centers. In Ghana, where the Hausa cocoa is a common brand of porridge, our puree porridge will be a good alternative to this to this house akoko, where children and adults both take this product. This model is profitable, considering the fact that in Ghana there are a number of organizations into the production of potatoes. Next slide.
So because most people are not aware of malnutrition and hidden hunger, we shall emphasize on nutrition education through intensive awareness campaigns in both countries by partnering with local health institutions to deliver the education in schools and in local communities. Next slide, please. In line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, our project is striving to end hunger and malnutrition, ensuring good health and well-being while creating decent work and promoting economic growth by empowering smallholder farmers and creating employment among young people. By providing nutrient-rich sweet potatoes, which are rich in vitamins and essential minerals, we are solving a common problem that is affecting many children in our communities. Next slide, please. With your guidance and support, we can make Bare Foods a reality. Thank you.
Thank you. We have about 8.5 minutes, about 7.5 minutes have passed, so we have the remaining time for questions.
Great, thank you. Bill, why don't you lead off?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Just a couple of questions. Hopefully you could comment about the focus on two different geographies, both Ghana and Zimbabwe, versus maybe just focusing your early work on one, and the level of investment you'll need to do both locations versus one location, and how you're balancing the two.
Okay, so the reason why we are doing this is in Zimbabwe, I was in Zimbabwe last year doing my internship, and I was working at the Horticultural Research Institute. So during this time, because initially we had proposed to do value addition in like both countries, but now we are focusing on just production in Zimbabwe because it's more viable at the moment. There's a big need for that because most farmers are still producing like the white sweet potato, which doesn't have like enough vitamins and minerals as much as the orange varieties that are being introduced. So even like starting off on 1 hectare in Zimbabwe, it's not that capital intensive. I've actually started like multiplying the vines. We have a nursery that is already operating, so we are multiplying the vines to start production after winter. So as beginning from November, we shall be planting in Zimbabwe. And on the 1 hectare piece of land, we need approximately an initial investment of about $1,100 to produce in that 1 hectare. So it's not capital intensive, and the funding for that part is already covered. So but when we looked at Ghana, we found out that a lot of farmers are already producing this sweet potato, and there's an excess, but we can actually add value to the crop by producing other new products, which are like convenient products, like a healthy fast food snack for the people, so that they can still consume the vitamins and the nutrients that they require, but in a more creative way.
Go ahead, Tanya.
Hi, thank you, Precious and Andrew, for the presentation. I had a question about who your audience is. In particular, curious about who you're selling the smoothies to. And then are there, of the people who do suffer from malnutrition, are you selling to them? How are you getting them the product?
So with the porridge, the puree porridge, and the juice and the smoothie, we are selling it to the customers or to our audience.
It's like we are mainly going to be, because it's going to be like a mobile trailer shop. So we're going to be partnering with schools Then if they allow us to park the shop within their premises, we shall be offering it to the students, because most schools in urban areas, they don't really have like facilities where they can actually prepare food for the students. So we just have the mobile shop in there and to offer to the students.
Okay, and what's the price? Like, is it at cost? Is it something they can afford?
Yeah, in Ghana, the Hausa cocoa is a common brand, and they sell it for, say, 1 cedi. That's approximately less than 50 cents. And so we can sell it around maybe 1 cedi 20 pesos or 1 cedi 50 pesos. And then I also want to add that in Ghana, in schools, they have this cafeteria where whenever there's break, the students will go to buy their food. So we can just be in the cafeteria or this canteen to sell this product.
Thank you very much, Precious and Andrew. Again, my question centers around the partnerships that you have right now. So you did mention, Precious, that currently there's production going on 1 hectare of land. That part is covered by funding. But you're looking to partner once this production is done, the crops are ready, you're looking to move into the market, you have partnerships lined up. How developed are those partnerships? And if not, what are you looking to do to get them or get the ball rolling on the partnerships? Because it looks like this will work if the partnerships come to fruition.
Okay, so like we haven't really started, but we have a nursery. So with sweet potato, the first step is to multiply the vines so that we have enough planting material to be able to cover the 1 hectare. So we are planning to start in November, the real production, but at the moment we have like the nursery where we are still multiplying the seed so that it's enough by the time we get to November. And we are just trying to work with boarding schools because they provide like food for the students all the time. So if we can like partner with boarding schools, supplying them, but there are also different ways of marketing our products, because we have like farmers markets. For example, in Zimbabwe, we have the Mbare market where farmers bring in their produce and they can sell. But we are also mainly trying to focus with, because of the COVID, we have discovered that it's actually possible to be supplying our consumers directly. So we are having a online platform through social media promoting our products so that customers can actually place an order for the sweet potatoes, then we deliver to them directly to the homes. So we're just going to have like different ways of getting to our customers.
Great. I have a few questions. So first of all, you mentioned that the $1,100 for the 1 hectare plot is already secured. Where is that capital coming from?
From personal savings.
Okay, so that's your contribution directly.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Do you have a budget that you can show us for the project at the moment to get started?
Okay, for the fresh production or for the
actually, what is the total need to start the project?
Andrew?
Do you mean the amount needed? I think we are talking about $4,237.
Can you break that down for me now?
So we have the blender, which is costing around. These are just fixed assets. The blender, the solar panel, and then the 30L commercial blender. So the fixed asset is costing around $2,637, and then the expenses for the month is costing around $1,599.
Okay, so the fixed expenses are $2,637. The land is 1,000 something, but that still leaves us short some in the budget, right? What else is in the budget?
And the
so
mobile,
for the fixed,
mobile shop.
Yeah, the mobile shop is also part of the fixed asset.
Okay.
The mobile shop is costing around 4,000, approximately 4,000 Ghana cedis.
So if I'm understanding things correctly here, you have essentially a three-sided program, right? You're creating the supply by producing the sweet potatoes, the orange sweet potatoes. You're creating the demand by raising awareness through your campaign, and you're creating the delivery by having the mobile shop, right?
Yeah.
All of which are complicated things to do. The budget that I'm hearing here is just related to the mobile shop and the land. Are you going to be employing people, and how expensive will your media and awareness campaign be?
Yeah, they are all in the expenses in the month. So expenses in the month, like I said, we have $1,599. So they are all in that budget.
So that's just 1 month of operation, though.
Yes.
Okay. And what is your plan for, so will it take only 1 month to break even, or will you need to get additional capital to finance going forward?
So the money that the money that we'll get on for the first month will be used to roll over for the next month. So we use the money that we get, then we continue to refund the project with the money that we already have.
So
okay, so sorry, go ahead, please.
We're approximately looking at 3 months to be able to be self-sufficient in terms of working capital.
Okay, so the $4,257 gets you all the way to self-sufficiency, or will you need to find additional capital also?
Our contribution will also play a role in this. So.
Okay. Can you talk to us a little bit about what the media and awareness plan consists of? How will you raise awareness of this? And why would people switch from the House of Cocoa over to your product?
So with the cocoa, I don't know, with the cocoa, it's mostly taken by children, and it's made from millet. But we think when we offer this alternative with this nutrient, we think it will be more efficient to children and then adults.
And also, probably the taste, the color, and the texture of this porridge is really smooth, and mostly like young children like to eat like
Sweet.
creamy and sweet, because it's naturally sweet, and the color is quite attractive and appealing for the children.
Totally, and I definitely see that. I'm trying to get to how they're going to know to come over to your mobile shop and buy it. Are you going to be? How are you marketing this?
So there's different options, but then the option that we're going to start with is partnering with the schools, then having our mobile shop packed inside the premises of the schools, so that when there's during the break time or during the lunch time, they can actually come in and get it. So it's more of like a healthy snack, but it's more of like fast food.
Other questions? I think we're getting close to time.
Yeah, not a question, but a bit of a follow-up. It seems like this will definitely work if you get strong partnership. You came back to partnership. And it looks like at the moment, you don't have anything solid with regards to partnership. And that will be very interesting to potentially look at starting to hit the ground running right now in terms of partnership, because this will work if you have those partnerships in play. So that's just a bit of a follow-up on
that. Just one last thing. What will be your roles in the program, both of you, Precious and Andrew?
So
Go ahead, Precious.
Okay, I will be working mainly in Zimbabwe because I'm from Zimbabwe and I'm in my 4th year of studies. So after graduation, I'm going straight to Zimbabwe. And because I've already started with the nurseries and stuff, it will just be planting, and then doing the marketing campaigns and promoting the products, and also supporting the project in Ghana, because I won't be there, so Andrew will be the one who is in charge of the project in Ghana.
Thank you. I think we're at time, right, Rachel?
We are at time. Thank you both to Precious and Andrew for that presentation. We're going to take a short break while the judges reset, and then MechTech, Doreen, you'll be the next presenter. Great, we're going to move on to the next presentation, which is MechTech. Doreen, once the slides come up, you'll be able to start pitching. Just as a reminder, you have 20 minutes to pitch. I'm going to give you a time check at 6 minutes and at 7 minutes. I encourage you to spend the last 13 minutes for the judges to ask questions. And to advance a slide, just say next, and Antoinette will do that for you. All right, when you're ready.
Hello, just to check that you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I remember when I was a little girl and my mother would call my father before the start of every school term, and he would say to her that he had only managed 15 bags. That was 10 bags short. My heart would sink because that would inevitably mean that I would have to sit out that school term. And I would sit and wonder, just what if the dusty old tractor that had been sitting in our backyard could have been given a few spare parts and could have been used to maybe produce more and given more harvest. Maybe then that would have had a drastic impact on my academic path. My name, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Doreen Kiprano, and I'm that little girl that stands before you today.
And my name is Eskin Nyoike, and we are MechTech. So our aim as MechTech is to revolutionize mechanization in Africa by providing access to farm machinery for smallholder farmers.
Next slide, please. Now, statistics show that 60% of the sub-Saharan African population is made up of smallholder farmers who contribute 80% of the total agricultural produce, yet they have the least access to farm inputs and machinery. And a few problems that have caused this is the high cost that comes with the farming machinery, and the fact that this farming machinery have to be repaired due to problems that come with breakdown or when they are subjected to farm crime and thievery. Another huge problem that we are all familiar with is the corruption and bureaucracy that is afflicted on our African continent. So the government usually gives out subsidized machinery to the farmers, but it never really gets the farmer because you have to know someone to be able to get this machinery. And at the end of the day, it never really gets to the common mwananchi, or as we would say in our Swahili word, the common citizen. So another thing that we would try to root out is the paperwork and processes that are involved in obtaining the farming machinery that end up being very tasking and tiring for the farmers. Next slide, please. So it would be very interesting to find out that out of the 19.6 million that is the Kenyan farming population, smallholder farmers contribute 15.9 million to that, and they are spread out across farming organizations that are around 5,000 in Kenya, and most of these farming organizations are maybe in the form of what we call SACCOs, that is savings and credit cooperative societies.
Next slide, please. So in developing our solution to this problem, our aim was to create as much value for all the industries, for all the players in the industry. So our approach is a win-win solution. And we developed a platform where farmers can rent out machinery through farm organizations of which they're already members of. So by doing this, first of all, we realized that most of these farmers are already in SACCOs. So we have those economies of scale. And we realized that by approaching the SACCOs, we gain access to a wide range of farmers. So our value proposition is three-way. One, the large inventory. So we'll have the farmer, the smallholder farmer, as long as he's part of the SACCO and he's a member of the SACCO, he can be able to log onto our app and look at the inventory of machinery that we have, and he'll be able to rent it out. And the other part that we thought about was repair services. So we realized that even for most of the machinery, the problem is not really the access. The problem is what happens after the access, because most of the machines will have breakdowns and the cost will be too high. So as much as you're providing this farm machinery, you want to make it as effective as possible. And we realized by having repair services as part of our service model, we'll be able to make the machinery that we have as efficient as possible. And the last thing was, as much as you're going through the SACCOs, just in the same way, we want the machines to be effective. If you're having this inventory, we want them to do as much work as possible. And we realize that with a scheduling system, we can optimize the efficiency. Now, one of the challenges that we see in rural Africa is that the geolocation features, such as Google Maps, they're based on machine learning. So it might not, in terms of determining the best transport routes, since there's no that developed aspect, it's very hard to use the system such as Google Maps. So our scheduling system will build on top of that in analyzing the area and seeing the best routes possible. Next slide, please.
Now, as part of our marketing, our market validation, we consulted with various agricultural specialists, namely KARI, which is the Kenya Agricultural Research Institute, and One Acre Fund Kenya, that is directly involved with smallholder farmers in Kenya. And in doing this, we were able to identify our beachhead market as Kapnetuni location in Uasin Gishu County. And we registered 2 SACCOs, Skyline SACCOs and Ainabkoi SACCOs, which in total gave us around 1,381 pre-registered smallholder farmers. Next slide, please. Sorry, next slide, please.
So you might ask, what makes this our solution unique? And first of all, it's the ease of use. So on the end user side, which is a smallholder farmer, we have simplified the process of getting the farm machinery, which is just you're renting out. Most of the hiring, the renting thing is happening on the SACCO and on our end. So for the farmer, is just requesting the service as long as you're a member. So those are just added benefits for being a SACCO member. The other thing is affordable in that we've greatly reduced the cost. You don't have to go and get it out. And the other competitive advantage will be our online transactions in that it's completely online. So we've removed all the paperwork and there's transparency in it. Next slide, please. So in coming up with a financial model, this was our rough estimate. So for development costs, building the app and the backend system scheduling, that we tallied it to around $2,000. And then we're going to do it pilot project with the 2 SACCOs that we interviewed. So the operation and purchase of machinery, such as fuel, such as getting the cost of the equipment, that will roughly 5,500 to get all the basic machinery to start like the whole project. And transportation and labor cost is what takes a big chunk of our revenue, in that you have to operate, you have to transport it where it's needed. So we tally that to around 6,600. Our revenue model is also two-way. First, basic subscription for the SACCOs you work with, because it's an incentive for the farmers. You know that when I join this SACCO, I get access to all these machines. So they'll have to pay like a base price and then a premium service for the farmers if they want more specialized services. Like if you have a large amount of land, we might have something tailored for you. So a base subscription model, and then will be depending on the package that the farmer needs to use. Next slide, please.
When it comes to insurance, we noticed that the current people in business that the farmers rely on are renting farms, and this renting farms usually just maybe conduct whatever transactions they have with the farmer, but they don't really provide any insurance for them. So at the end of the day, the farmer is still prone to problems when it comes to damages and repairs, and often maybe some of the spare parts that they have to buy have to be overseas or abroad, and they have to incur costs such as shipping, which at the end of the day, they don't really need to or should be prone to. So what MechTech offers is that our machines, first of all, will have GPS trackers integrated into the scheduling system as a way to maybe sift out the problem that comes with the crime that comes with thievery of the farming machinery. We've also identified insurance providers such as Syngenta that has the Kilimo Salama insurance program already in place for the agricultural industry and specifically for mechanization, and UAP, Old Mutual Insurance Company. Next slide, please. So what does this wonderful team comprise of? So that includes me, Doreen Kiprono, who is the CEO and founder, and I'm a rising junior at McGill University, majoring in microbiology and biotechnology, and I will be in charge of marketing and partner relationships. We have SK Nyoike, who serves as a development lead and is currently a rising junior who's also majoring in computer science at Vanderbilt University, and will be in charge of the development of the application and backend scheduling system. And last but not least, we have Brian Kiplagat, who will be in charge of operations and logistics, considering that both Eskin and I are in different or not really close to the beachhead market, which is Kenya, and we used our primary contact as Brian, who is an economics and statistics graduate from Moi University, and he coordinates ground operations and logistics. Next slide, please.
And finally, to wrap it up, we also realized that we need more advice, so we've partnered with consultants who have been working in the current industry in Kenya. So Kenny Omondi works for the One Acre Fund Kenya, and he has vast knowledge and experience working with smallholder farmers. So he'll provide insights on how to engage with the SACCOs and how to scale the startup. And for Ken Some, he's worked in the spare parts department at Massey Ferguson. So he'll give us that knowledge that you need in designing our repair services. And he's also currently a sales consultant. So yeah, and next slide, please. That's all we had for you. Thank you so much. So we'll move on to the questions. Apologies for the time. We overestimated on how much you'll spend. Thank you.
Thank you. We have about 8 minutes for questions.
All right, a question, I guess, Doreen, and could you let us know in terms of
Askin.
or Eskin, or okay,
Doreen, I think he was asking too,
I
though,
was
right?
asking Doreen as well. Yeah, Doreen, in terms of, I guess on your business model, I'm curious in terms of, you know, the costs for transportation and labor. Was a very large, but more so than the machinery. And then you didn't mention as much about your revenue model for the business. Could you comment about that, and also what you might see as the most popular or most needed piece of farm machinery that you would be using in your business?
Okay, so for the cost, that's mapped out monthly. So we estimated we'll use around 60,000. Part of the cost is in the operation. So in the operation and purchase of equipment, we factored in fuel on that front. So with around $600 for the pilot project, because we want to learn how it works before we scale it up. So for the 2 circles, they're near each other. So it will be more of how do we ferry the machine. So ideally, the farmer will request for the machinery like 3 days, 4 days prior, and then we'll take the orders for 1 day, like 3 days, and determine how best can we get the machinery. So we're like, okay, from this point to this point, you know, it takes this much amount of time. So we'll get like an efficient schedule from the scheduling system. So we'll have inputs such as distance, like location, timing, preference. Yeah, that's going on our back end of the scheduling system. So yeah, I guess we are starting on a small locale. So we have concentrated on 2 sub-counties. So we kind of studied the area and, you know, the transport cost and the farmers that we'll be taking into the pilot project. For the revenues, so first of all, we have a base fee. That's a subscription, because we are offering value to the circle in that if you're partnering with us, your farmers are getting the machinery, they're getting repair services. So I think first of all, there should be like a base for each circle that they're providing more value to their members, and there'll be more incentive to join these circles. And then we have also another way that we collect revenue will be on the farmers. So let's say if you have a 3-acre plot of land, maybe you might need more tools. So just like as a means of way whereby we'll be like, if you want faster access, if you want for this package of land, you'll have to pay like maybe this more because of the size of your land, which is cost effective still because you're getting everything done. As for the equipment, it's most of it is farming. So we have like the tractor is like the main farm tool, but then we have all these other added inputs, like we need the reaper. I'll let Doreen comment on that.
I just wanted to comment on something you had asked about. Why is the transport and labor docket so much more than the actual machinery? So when you talk about the transport and labor docket, just consider this is somewhere that is in remote Africa. It's very rural. We have roads that are probably not even close to tarmac. So when it comes to maybe transporting these tractors, they're huge. The roads are very small. They're probably muddy when it comes to rainy seasons. Where we are having the beachhead market I hail from, and it's very hilly. It's very, it's an area where if there was rain, and this tractors were to break down in the middle of the roads and not actually be able to get to the farmer, or even break down during the process of working on these farms, what would then happen? So we have to factor in something like putting in funding for that, as well as when it comes to labor, we know that these farmers might not really know how to maybe conduct or operate these farming machineries. So we also have to factor in the fact that we'll have to hire our own mechanics. We also have to factor in the fact that we will have to hire our own operators. Yeah, thank you.
Can you walk us through the economics of this? Because Erskine, I understand that you were mentioning various revenue streams, but let's take the very specific case. You have what almost 1,400 farmers in the pilot. Okay. Can you walk us through the economics of the pilot?
Okay, so we have this around 1,400 farmers, and we have the equipment. So from our questionnaires, we determine the equipment that we'll need. And some of the equipment, for example, if we're rolling out in the planting season, which will be our target project, right? Okay.
We're too much detail. Tell me the numbers.
Numbers in terms of cost or in terms of orders?
Ideally, both costs and revenues.
Okay, so the farmers can order. So, okay, I'm not sure I grasp your question in terms of like what costs are costs that are involved, or I'm sorry.
What will it cost you to operate for a year, and what revenue will you generate?
Okay, so for our project month, that the cost that we calculated was for roughly 6 months in getting the equipment and doing the pilot project. So that's the length and the duration of the project, so that we can learn what we need to change, what we need to adapt to. And that's our, we've modeled our financial revenue and our budget based on the pilot project, after which you can be able to scale up and continue adding more circles depending on the location.
Okay. 6 months. What are the numbers?
So, that's in our slide. So 2,000 was for developing everything, getting the whole system running. 5,500 was for purchase of equipment. We'll start with 2-wheel tractors because they're more cheaper and fit more into our budget. And then the rest, the 6,000, I think, yeah, 6,000, that's on a monthly basis, the transport cost and the operational labor just to like operate those machines.
Okay, so those are all the costs, now the revenues.
So the revenues, right now, we realize that our main thing is we hope to aggregate the economies of scale. So we're not looking at, we'll just charge like the circles because you're doing a pilot project and you also want to see how it's gonna go. So our main thing is using the economies of scale at a much later stage. Like we have more farmers, that's when we get our profits. But for revenue, each circle will pay $1,000 just to start. Like that will be our base fare for charging all the services, and as a freebie of sorts, whereby we're giving you this service for you to model, so that when we roll out our main feature, they'll be like, we've experimented with this, we've seen it works, and now we can be able to like kick in our revenue model that we have in place.
Other questions?
Sorry, Oliver, I just wanted to know if you're satisfied with the question or if you would like me to give a summary of the cost and revenue that Eskin just mentioned, just very briefly.
I think we're out of time. Is there one last question from anyone else? Yeah, I guess one last quick question from me would be, you need to build your own backend application for this, or is there something off the shelf that you can use?
So because of the location, we'll need to build our own backend. The main thing that we're developing is a scheduling system, and I have experience with C++ and SQL, so I'm well versed in like the database and the development. I've done a couple of similar projects, so I feel like building our own system in that it will be proprietary, and you can be able to like scale it up and have more control of when we roll it out.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much for the presentation. We'll take another small break before we're ready for the next presentation, which will be A Girl's Dream. Okay, we're going to begin the next presentation with a girl's dream. Just a reminder to the competitors, you have 20 minutes to pitch. I'll be keeping time on the chat function. I'll give you a time check at 6 minutes. And again, at 7, we encourage you to spend about 7 minutes on the presentation, leaving about 13 minutes for Q&A. Again, I'll keep time on the chat, so you'll get some warnings on that. And your slides will come up in a minute. And once those are, you'll be ready to go.
Hold on one second. Good morning. Miriam, Yvette, you guys good? Okay.
All good.
Okay, we can start. That's a question for the moderator.
Yes, please do.
Okay, so good morning. Thank you for having us. Our social venture is called A Girl's Dream. Next. My name is Brianna Bryant. I attend the University of Michigan Dearborn. I study mechanical engineering and applied arts. A fun fact about me, I have about 4+ years of experience mentoring girls between the age 9 to 18. Last year, I was a Forbes guest speaker on a panel named Who Run the World? Girls Who Make Robots. Next.
Hi, my name is Yvette Facundo. I am a sophomore at the University of Michigan Dearborn. I'm exploring business administration. Fun fact about me, I am a first-generation student and part of the Engaged Scholars at U of M. Next.
Hi everyone, my name is Miriam. I am also a first-generation college student. And a fun fact about me is that I am a pioneer intern at Deloitte. Next. So A Girl's Dream is a program that aims to provide young women with opportunities to be more engaged in STEAM-related fields. We plan on doing this by teaching professional as well as personal development all throughout the school year in schools specifically located in the Detroit and Dearborn area. Next.
Yes, so our mission is to advocate for the increase of women of color in STEAM. The two factors that we take in consideration is to eliminate barriers and to provide opportunities. We want to take away any financial incapabilities, lack of resources, and to provide mentorship and personal and professional development, and to overall make our student dreams come true. Next.
So every girl is encouraged to apply as long as they meet the age requirement, identify as a female, and fill out and submit the application. We do this by focusing our program on girls ages 12 to 18 from different local Detroit and Dearborn schools. We will provide mentorship and collaboration opportunities with our goal to serve 15 girls each school year and having each of their dreams be accomplished by the end of the program. Next.
Yes, so we want to help our students pursue any dream they have within STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. As you can see, these are many different topics that we would like our students to be able to explore. Right now, we're limited to visual arts, mechanical engineering, app development, digital communications, and web development due to the free resources that we have collected so far. But in the future, with more funding, we'd like to build more curriculum and projects for these other topics. Having these many topics and plus with professional and personal development programming, this is an aspect that makes our organizations really unique. Next.
So with professional and personal development, we want to inform the girls and stress that in order to be successful and achieve their dreams, they have to take care of their well-being and improve on their skills. The professional development aspect deals with helping the girls learn and work on new skills that will help them in the long run, like for learning financial responsibility, building a resume, and public speaking. It would be taught by a presentation made by one of us or having a presenter come in and talk about it, and then afterward having an activity with them. We might have someone from a bank come in and teach the girls about how to manage their money in a healthy way or getting them career ready. Next.
So to teach personal development is to teach girls about eating healthy or taking care of their mental health, and to simply be your own biggest advocate. Next, please. We will do that by journalizing. So at the beginning of each session, we provide these girls with a prompt, and the questions could be like, how do you deal with stress? And what do you consider self-love? And then afterwards, we talk about it, discuss, encourage, and empower. And then towards the end of the program, these girls are encouraged to look at their most recent journal entry and compare it to their very first journal entry. And that will assist in creating a presentation to explain what the program has taught them and how they will take their knowledge and incorporate it in what's next to come for them. Next.
So the after school program would take up 1 hour, and it would be held once a week. During that day of meeting, the schedule would most look like the one I have created. We aim to focus most of our meeting time on different STEAM related fields, but part of the time we focus on professional and personal development. The after-school program will promptly start at 4. The first 10 minutes, students will be encouraged to come in and talk to other students before starting our sessions. Every week, we will have presentations devoted toward informing the students about either personal or professional development. Some days we will strive to get guest speakers from different jobs or companies come in to talk to them. For example, having like someone from a bank come in and present financial responsibility. At 4:10, we will begin those presentations and do an activity with the group as a whole. And after 25 minutes, we will break into smaller groups that are more concentrated on what the student wants to learn within the STEAM fields. And at 5, that's when we conclude our session as a group, where the students come in and talk amongst each other, journal, or ask more questions as we wait for like all the students to get picked up. Next.
Yes. So the curriculum for the STEAM, we have broken it down to 7 different steps for the students. The student must identify a goal, explore the meaning and prior knowledge of what they think that topic is, learn the definition, example, get hands-on activity or worksheet, explore with their mentor, journal and reflect on what they have learned, and be able to present their what they have learned at the end of the project. Next. So to get a deeper look, here is a draft of one of our curriculum for programming. So we have what is it with attached links and videos to help guide the conversation along. Who does it? So they have real life representation of females who look like them, who are in that field, an activity in the project. So our project basically consists of either 1 or 2 different options where they're able to pick from and get hands-on learning and take initiative on what they're learning. Next. So the location. After our last competition and before the pandemic started, we had a meeting with Detroit Edison Public School Academy, and the superintendent offered us a pilot group with middle schoolers. And unfortunately, due to the pandemic, this opportunity got pushed back, and in the future, we hope to collaborate with them. Another temporary location is the Detroit Public Library because they have computers, books, and other free resources that we can use. But ultimately, we want to have our own location. We get inspiration from the Best Buy Teen Tech Center, Tech Town, and Phomology. Next. So here are some pictures of what we inspired to have one day. There are classrooms, art rooms, computer labs, 3D printers, and ultimately collaboration space for innovation. Next.
So the objects that we have listed over here are what we need to operate. Assuming that we have 15 participants for our pilot group, the total cost of operation would be $1,000, $1,434. But that does include the cost of becoming an LLC as well as establishing our own PO box. We did initially ask for more than what you see right here. And that is just to keep us sustainable throughout the years until we find a founder or a donor or several founders and donors and sponsors to keep us operating and going. Next, please. So our main sources of income are projects such as this one, future grants, and also our own fundraiser, the end of the program fundraiser that we were talking about earlier. This way we can connect, recent graduates of the program as well as the current ones, and then big figures in the community, and it would be just like one big networking party, but it would also be a fundraiser where people could donate for our cause. Next.
Yes, so as Miriam just said, we're looking into future collaborations, potential sponsors and donors. We have established these different companies that we would like to work with, such as the Michigan Science Center, Best Buy Teen Tech Center, Shinola, and many of these other companies because they share some of the same values and goals as our organization. And we'll be looking to them for mentors and volunteers to help guide our program along. Next.
We would lastly like to tell you that we are very confident in our program as well as the impact that it has on our community. As all three of us are first generation college students, we are well aware of the programs that we may have missed out on as high schoolers or middle schoolers. And so we want to give these girls an opportunity to create their own future or their own dream and have an equal opportunity with applying for schools or applying for jobs and internships and so on. Next.
Yes, so thank you for listening to our presentation. Attached here is our email and Instagram. Please follow, like, and comment on our Instagram. And now time for questions.
Thank you. We have just under 10 minutes for questions.
Tanya, why don't you lead off?
Yeah, thank you, ladies. That was great. You guys went really in depth on the curriculum. Can you walk me through how you came up with that curriculum in particular? You know, what were your inspirations, or did you have any support or even, I guess, academic texts that pointed you in that direction?
Yes, thank you. And now I can breathe since the presentation is done. We have gathered a lot of free resources that we found online, such as Tinkercad, Lego Education, the Mindstorm YouTube channel, and SketchUp, and many more free resources that we can utilize to help guide conversations along online. So that's what initially helped start the curriculum. And I personally have experience with mentoring girls. So I found that the Lego Mindstorm kit and Lego Education is like a good starter for learning how to build things and how to start programming and just how to work together as a team.
Quick follow-up on that. Do you have anybody on your team that's, or especially in your mentorship team, that's helping you make sure that you're choosing the right programs?
Yes, because I come from a FIRST robotics team, we have mentors from GM, and they basically teach us about FIRST robotics, and they have experience with teaching other students about things. So this is what I got inspiration from them to help guide us.
Maybe a follow-up there is, Brianna, Bill here. Could you tell me about, how you define a mentor? What do you see as the perfect or model for mentors in a girl's dream?
Well, from our slide that had all the different companies, we really like companies that have to do with either tech or STEM, and prefer for them to be a female, but anyone who has the inspiration and dedication to help teach students, or especially girls, we will love to have.
So it's broader than just college students as mentors, so you would go beyond. So I was trying to understand also the age range of mentors, so it kind of spans a broader spectrum than college students. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question about the target group and the entry requirements. So how do you get to them? Like, how are you marketing to them? And how are you reaching them to make sure that they enter the program? Like, what are the requirements for that?
Yvette, would you like to take this question?
So we had changed the target group depending on the age, because as we were told in our feedback, it was kind of thinking at a wider scale when it comes to age. And they were like, well, maybe if you include elementary students or even middle school students, you can have a broader area of getting them interested early on. And I guess that was our change and why we decided to go younger. As requirements, since it's kind of it's empowering girls to kind of be more involved in STEAM, that's where we targeted girls ages 12 to 18, and then it's kind of like following them throughout like the program, so they can come like year after year. They want to try different things each year. Like we'll hopefully have like all those things. And then I think we also have an application that says like age, your interest in like STEAM, or even if you don't have an interest, like what do you want to learn? And if you want to change that throughout the program, like you're more than welcome to. And then we also have like the personal and professional. So even if they don't think they're interested in a STEAM field, it's kind of just like growing as a person and growing like professionally. So whatever you decide to go with, you're well prepared to like go out and find a nice career and have all the opportunities that you might not have.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so just two confirmatory things, Yvette, on that. So you're finding the students by partnering with schools though, right? And then they're kind of coming to you through that. Is that correct?
Yeah. So that's our initial. I know Bree, she chose her school because she knew like the superintendent, and that's where we would start our pilot group. And how she had said in the future, we hope to maybe be big enough to open up our own space. And that's when we could like market to bigger audiences of like different schools coming together and not just like students from one group.
Totally. Yeah, I get the broader vision. I think the visuals were great in the presentation. But yeah, so initially you're partnering with a school, and then so Brianna, you have a school in mind that's agreed to partner with you when the coronavirus is beyond us, hopefully.
Yes.
Okay. And I want to ask a question, and this is not meant as a criticism. I'm just trying to clarify. It sounds to me like the initial pilot program for the 15 girls per year is kind of like a guided group that introduces the girls to different concepts. And if they want to delve in deeper, you might have partnerships to help them really go into learning to code deeply. Is that a good characterization of the pilot program?
Yes.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you. In terms of the budget, you provided us roughly $1,400 for the first 6 months. What would be the cost of a full year, just so that we have it? Roughly?
So actually the $1,400 is for the entire year from September all the way to June. And we're just, so that's just the entire year for us.
Right, academic year then. So, and there wouldn't be like a summer program then, because ostensibly they're doing something else.
No.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. And then last but not least, I'm assuming that you all would commit to having appropriate policies in place for mentors working with minors and for all the appropriate safeguards there, right?
Yes. I know working with mentors, there need to be certain procedures and background checks and things like that. So that's what we are going to establish.
Okay, great. And one last question for me is, the three of you are committed to running this program for, to get it off the ground at least?
Yes, I really see this as like a lifelong type of project for me, and something I really wanted to pursue, because my first year in college, I was basically having a mental breakdown. Like, I don't know what I want to do. Everyone have like their perfect idea of what their career is gonna look like. But then I had to reflect on like my high school experience, that I had mentors who helped guide me to where I am today and help me figure out that, mechanical engineering is something that I'm really passionate about, and providing that to give back to the community is something I'm really passionate about.
Yeah, Tanya, did you have a question on the financial side?
I think your dive-in answered it. Thank you.
Great. Other questions from the judges?
I just had a question in terms of, I saw your vision for long-term, income. What would you, so do you see this program, company being funded by grants long-term? And at what scale do you see in the next couple of years needing to raise money to meet your aspirations?
Yvette, would like to tackle this question?
I can if you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
More
Okay.
finance.
Okay, so actually we do, since we are planning on becoming a nonprofit, we do plan on highly relying on grants and fundraisers and all of that. So we honestly do not have a source of income or anything besides partnering with the people that we get volunteers from, probably reaching out to them, those companies like Business Tech Town and all of that, having most of the stuff donated. Again, we're a nonprofit, so that is mainly our source of income.
And any vision on for the next 2 or 3 years, how much money you think you would need to raise as part of your vision?
Probably in the future, I feel like since we would expand and we'd go to more than one school, we would probably need a lot more. Currently, again, we did request $5,000, but it's just to keep us sustainable throughout the years with our pilot group and to see how it's working out. And then we will need a lot more later on since we're going to be working with several other schools.
Yes, and I wanted to add on that since we did make this expense sheet based off of 1 year, for the next year and many other collaborations that we may get, we're not sure like what resources we'll get from other schools or other companies at the moment, but every year we'll provide another sheet of materials we may need or new materials we may need. But expanding to like, I see way in the future getting our own location, yeah, there may be a big cost that we will have to raise. If that's something you guys would like to help us with, or like what a location would be like to buy or to help someone give us, that would be very helpful.
For sure. So it seems to me, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, it's time.
Oh, time, okay.
Very much appreciate the presentation. Thank you so much. We'll just take another brief pause and then we'll be ready for Green New Detroit.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, what's up?
Hello, fantastic. We'll be ready for your presentation in just a moment. Just as a quick reminder on the schedule, you'll have 20 minutes to pitch. We encourage you to spend 7 minutes of that on the actual pitch and the last 13 minutes of that on the Q&A. I'll be letting you know the time check on the chat, so I'll let you know when 6 minutes have passed and then 7. If you go beyond that, that just bites into the time that the judges have for Q&A. Antoinette will be queuing up the slide for you momentarily. When you see that, you'll be ready to go. She'll be able to advance the slides or go back. Just let her know next or back.
Thank you.
And once you see those slides up, you'll be ready to go.
Sweet. Green New Detroit. Next slide, please. Click, please. Hello, everybody. My name is Devankar Mukhi. That's phonetically spelled underneath for anyone that needs clarification. You can find me at Devankar Mukhi. Oh, actually, you might have to, sorry about this. You might have to refresh this presentation because I did make like 2 edits just now. So sorry about that. I took out that app. No, I don't think it did it work. Did you refresh?
It may not be loading, so if we can just go ahead with the slide that we have, I think that'd be the best.
Okay, that's fine. All right, take 2. Let's go. Yes, my name is Devankar Mukhi, and today I'm going to be talking about Green New Detroit. Next slide, please. So let's start with the problem and what needs change. Next slide, please. So I'll give you 2 words what the problem is. It's environmental injustice. Next slide. Click. So environmental injustice is essentially the processes that resulted in low-income communities that are feeling disproportionate, that are often left out, and being taken away granted environmental benefits. There's actually a large form of evidence showing that this environmental inequity, if you want to call it, has a link between racial segregation, public health, and hazards and other environmental issues. Next slide, please. So, next slide. Climate change is only going to amplify the already existing divide between those who have resources and those who do not, the haves and the have-nots. This was said by Elliot Levin, one of the directors of the Environment Technical Support Unit at Mercy Corps. Next slide. So G&D, Green New Detroit, aims to educate and provide green solutions for those who are left out. Next slide, please. So Green New Detroit is going to be working on a pilot program. This is what I would like the resolution project funding and support to go towards. Quick, please. Green New Detroit's pilot program is going to comprise of 3 parts. 1, education. Click, please. 2, digital mapping. Click, please. 3, sustainability kits. Now, as you may have remembered, last time I pitched to you guys, I pitched about the sustainability kits that I want to create, and I was all over the place with how many I want to make, everything like that. So I'm focusing a lot more on one individual program, which is this pilot program, the education, the digital mapping, and creating of one type of sustainability kit. Click, please. So let's start with the education. So, click, please. Our education is going to be, our pilot program is specifically going to be working with Detroit inner city urban youth, 12 to 16-year-olds of age, working with organizations such as the Boys and Girls Club of Detroit as a partner to teach them about 2 things. 1 is their carbon footprint, how to measure their carbon footprint, learning about environmental stressors, energy efficiency, energy saving methods. Basically, consider this your environmental literacy program. Please. The next thing we're going to be teaching them are data acquisition analysis skills. So this is qualitative and quantitative questionnaire forms, surveys, learning how to go out in the community and gather survey data from people, learn how to properly look at the data, gather the data, analyze it, look at trends, and then develop solution strategies and any other initiatives that might come about this. Now, teaching this urban youth this kind of very valuable information will help alleviate our environmental and technological gap by giving them the understanding to be able to understand why it's important to focus on environmental stressors, climate change, when making decisions within their own city. These decisions can be ranging from learning about infrastructure investments, land and water use, building codes, public health, zoning, urban planning. There's a lot of different doors and a plethora of different areas that they can utilize both the carbon footprint and the data acquisition analysis skills. This in turn will catalyze the train-the-trainer model, because then we're going to be utilizing these students and our team to go out into these neighborhoods and form dialogues on both educating yourself on the environment and learning about how to look at data and doing things like this. So, you know, in theory, we're going to be teaching these kids to basically teach the community members about the environment. Next, please. So step 2 of this is digital mapping. Next, please. So a way for us to visually look at our data, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a virtual digital map. That is going to be using this MapCore software to help create this interactive map that has community voices, allows us to pinpoint hot zones or green zones that are, you know, able to implement photo and video, and being able to see, you know, what areas are doing better off, that are more sustainable, aka a green zone, or what areas are more at risk, aka a red zone. And this will allow our students to be able to literally virtually play around and have other people come on onto our, you know, Green New Detroit website and be able to see, you know, what is being done, what areas are needed, and things like that. So other organizations and corporate companies can come in, bring their dollars in, bring their resources in, and can help out those areas. Next, please. Yes, like I mentioned, you know, this tool is going to help, you know, with the information upload, allow users to see the ever-changing community needs, looking at the users in the area, seeing how many people live there. There's a lot of different areas that digital mapping can help with this program. Next, please. Finally, our sustainability kits. So we're going to create one form of sustainability kit that's going to contain an eco-friendly bulb, heat insulated curtain, hot water retention tap, lead filters, gardening equipment, seeds, basically an all-in-one package that is going to be dispersed throughout the neighborhood at our pilot program, where we're going to be able to do this. These kits are going to be subsidized for the residents, because what is important is our community buy-in, and what is also important is that our residents put some skin in the game, so we're able to, you know, have our people not feel like we're just giving them a handout, but they are really being contributed, and they're going to be created for and by our team and our students who are going to help make this happen. What's going to happen is our revenue model basically is corporate companies are going to give us money to form partnership with us for brand recognition, and then we're going to be able to mention that so-and-so company was able to purchase, you know, 20 kits in a neighborhood, and because of their dollars, they're going to be helping provide for the materials that go into the kits that are going to be 100% locally sourced in Detroit, because we want to focus on the city, work on creating circulating economy, because that's what's very important here. And you know, any other donations that they can give us, in-kind donations of any you know, objects or materials can go into the kits, things like that. Then we will be dispersing those kits. Any remaining amount of money will go towards our organization for operational costs, salaries, things like that. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. Okay, so kind of just wrapping up, I'm a firm believer that increasing urban youth technological capacity to understand their carbon footprint can help invoke this intergenerational change by reducing both the effects of climate change and environmental injustice. Next slide, please. Okay, thanks everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on again for the second opportunity. So I had made an edit on the second PowerPoint that I did, which was a budget slide. So since I don't have the slide actually visible for you guys, I will just read it off to you when you guys ask me questions with that. You can click next.
Why don't we start with that? Just walk us through that one slide.
Okay, for sure. So our budget right now is basically, here's how I've broken down. We need to file for nonprofit status. That's one thing that I need to do. I need to work with a team to develop our digital infrastructure. So we need a website, we need website hosting, we need access to MapCore software, and then we need video editing. Why am I saying video editing? Because part of the marketing plan for Green New Detroit is actually film a YouTube series that's going to go along with this entire initiative. It's going to be a 3-month series to go around with the pilot program, what it takes, scenes, what the data is like that. And to be able to do all that, it's going to create a way of inspiring young people to get out there, be involved in the community, do a project, and really show people that all it takes is a few young minds to get together in a room and to create a big impact. So that's another thing that we're going to need. Technology. So we're going to need to provide some cheap smartphones and tablets for our students. And then we need like a few decent cameras so the students can also use that. Running the educational dialogues, and then finally developing a beta sustainability kit prototype that we will be able to pitch to corporate companies to basically show to them that this is going to be what it's going to be like when they put their dollars in. That's the budget.
So what are the numbers of the budget?
So right now the budget, the numbers for the budget are nonprofit status can be anywhere from $200 to $500. Digital infrastructure, so website, MapCore software, and video editing, that's going to be about $1,500. The technology that I'm putting in for the smartphones, tablets, and cameras is going to be approximately $1,500. And then running the educational dialogues and beta sustainability kits, that's going to be like purchasing food, drinks, and in case we need to pay any speakers, that's going to be like another amazing remaining $1,000. So we're looking at between $4,000 to $5,000 asking for the pilot program.
And what length of time is this? Sorry,
you got cut off.
What length of time is this budget for?
This is going to be this is a little bit hard to say. Ideally, I wanted to do this in 3 months, but I think it's going to take me double that, 6 months. So anywhere from 3 to 6 months.
I have another question. What about the team? Who's your team? Who are you working with on this project?
So my strategist or my co-founder, his name is Jack. So Jack couldn't make it today because he's a master's student and he's an engineering background undergraduate. So because he's a master's student, he was disqualified to pitch today, but he's going to be the main person I'm working with to this. And then we also have about 5 to 6 other fresh graduates that were class of 2020 that lost internships due to COVID-19 that want to get involved with working on this project for the summer.
And could you also comment on corporate partnerships, as they seem to be pretty critical to enabling your venture? So could you talk about any conversations you've had with corporate partners and who might be initial targets for partnerships?
Yeah, so I was working with the Boys and Girls Club to basically pitch this to Ally Financial. They were very interested in being a partner in this digital mapping project. That's one example. And then there's other corporate partnerships that we can hit up, like Quicken Loans in Detroit. We have Little Caesars. We have Rocket Mortgage, StockX. These are all, I want to focus on the Detroit companies around here. TCF has a big presence here in Detroit, as well as Ernst & Young. So we have a decent amount of corporate companies that we can definitely reach out to and partner.
Hi, thank you for that presentation. You have a lot of things that you want to do. Can you break down for us or just recap for us your timeline? In particular, what are you planning on doing during the pilot? And then for all these other programs, like when are you planning to do them? Is it this year? Is that next year or the following?
Yeah, can I ask you, so what do you mean by other programs? So this is all a part of one pilot program.
Okay, so you're going to do all of this all in the next couple of months?
So we would start with the education. So that will be, my team and I have already been working on developing the educational curriculum that we're going to be teaching to the kids. So we've already done that stuff since the last time I pitched to now, which I pitched last time in February. That's what I've been working on. I've been working on developing the educational platform, the curriculum we're going to be teaching. Now that's ready to go. Then COVID-19 happened. Now we're ready to just basically teach to the kids. So first thing is going to be education, and that's going to be between 1 to 2 months of time, and then working with taking them outside, and as soon as we're able to have a little bit more presence with people and things like that, and not worry about the 6 foot, then we're going to be able to take photos and do that. So my goal was to do the education portion in the next 2 months. And simultaneously, we're going to be working on the digital mapping, because as they're learning and taking surveys, that data is just being put right into our digital mapping software. So that's going to be happening simultaneously. And if we need to take another extra month doing that for the digital mapping, you're still looking at 3 months right there total. And then after that, I want to develop the sustainability kits. This is going to take the longer version of a step, you could say, because it's going to take time to really look at the data, reflect, and see what we want to do, as well as partner with the companies around here to see which companies can give us some donations. And my goal is to try to get those kits at least out by October or November of this year, at least a prototype of the kit, and not necessarily the final version. And then we can kind of see from there. So like I said, though, it's going to be around 6 months.
So Devin, I just want to quickly walk through this because it is a lot of stuff, but I think I see the sequence. So I just want to confirm this with you. The first step is to identify the students and your team members who you're going to train to capture data that go into your rubric for doing a digital map that show where there are spots in this area that you've identified that need to be improved. That's going to inform your kits.
Yeah.
And as you create the kits, you're going to get corporate sponsorship for as much of them as possible. But the families that receive the kits to improve their footprint are going to pay something into that as well. Am I accurate so far?
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Great. That's super helpful. Can you just talk a little bit about the how much are the families going to have to pay for the kits? I take your point that paying a little bit increases usership, but just tell us how much they're going to have to go for.
Yeah, it's a little hard to say, only because depending on how much a kit is going to cost us to create, and I can't tell you that necessarily this early on out, because we don't know what is going to be donated, what products are going to be donated into the kits, and what products we're going to have to buy ourselves at a cheaper rate from wholesale or things like that.
But I'm assuming you're going to want it to be affordable for the families, right?
It's definitely going to be affordable. Another thing is that during our data collection, we want to find out the average income of the families in the areas. So based on that, we'll form a price, because we don't want to hurt the families too much that, $50 to you might be cheap, but $50 for someone else might be a lot of money. And if you're only making like $12,000 a year, something like that, and you're living in poverty, you can't afford that. So we want to really make it so it's affordable for that neighborhood. And that's why I want to try it out in a specific neighborhood first before we try to do the entire city of Detroit, small scale.
And last quick question from me is, assumedly, you're going to need like a rubric to pick what's a red zone and what's a green zone. And I think that if you designate something a red zone, like maybe a bodega is in a red zone, that could have an impact on their sales. So I'm assuming you're going to have a program to try and help people remediate, and that rubric is really important for you to get right. How are you creating the rubric for what is designated what kind of zone, and then dealing with communities that might be negatively impacted if you're publishing them as a red zone?
So first of all, I don't even want to use the word zone, because zoning has such a bad racial derogatory with red zoning and redlining and things like that. So let's call those hot spots, right? Like a red spot, or I don't know, green spot. Sorry. Anyway, so how we're gonna do that is basically we're gonna do comparatively. So we're gonna compare this to other places, maybe in the state of Michigan or around the country, that are doing very well sustainability through their sustainability. And using a comparative model, we can kind of see, okay, at a certain threshold or a certain line, this area is doing a lot worse. So we can kind of, start understanding based on the trends, what areas should fit in those red spots, and maybe what areas are doing a little bit better. Maybe they're yellow. And then what spots are doing amazing, so they're green. So they're very close to our comparative, which has to be a city that is doing very well in the realm of sustainability. Maybe San Jose. I know San Jose is doing a lot of amazing things sustainability wise. So we'd have to do that in a way of creating a comparative. And to answer your second question about how to make it so and so stores in that area not doing well, we will really try to provide the resources to get them out of the red spot that they're in by reaching out to them and say, hey, we have these amount of organizations who are ready to help your area out. You need to be cautious about the environmental output, your energy efficiency, things like that. And we are ready to provide you that education. And not only that, we have organizations that can do different things for you. Let's clean up your area, your garden. Let's do some revitalization to beautify your area, things like that.
Maybe I have a general question as well to close out here. Do you have any challenge at all in education on making? Do people even care about green? Do they even care about climate change? Do they understand that? I mean, what's the connectivity with the local market there with those drivers?
They will care when they see that they're going to be saving money from it. If they see that it is energy efficient and cost saving for them, why would you not do it? And on top of that, if they see that the impact that they're doing is going to only cause more and more health disparities for their residents, their community members, and their children, it's terrible. There was a survey done, 1,700 Detroit area students are living with asthma out of 2,400 in one certain neighborhood. That's like 80% of the students with asthma. It impacts them as well as the environment is impacting them and saving them money. I don't see why you wouldn't be thinking about going green. Going green doesn't mean buying a Tesla and putting solar panels on your roof necessarily. Going green can be changing your behavior at home, doing things, educating yourself, and not necessarily having to spend $80,000 on a Tesla. You see what I'm saying? I want them to understand that you can be green, but on a budget.
Great, thank you. That is time. Really appreciate the presentation. We're going to take another brief pause, and then the Foundation Simulation Labs will be our next presentation. Okay, next up we have Foundation Simulation Labs. Hi, Jeff. Just a quick reminder on the procedures here. You have 20 minutes total. Encourage you to take the first 7 minutes for your pitch and about 13 for the Q&A. I'm going to keep track of the time in the chat, so you'll know when you've hit 6 minutes and 7 minutes. Any time beyond that, that just eats into the time the judges have for questions. And Antoinette will be pulling up the slides momentarily. When she does that, you'll be able to start. When you want her to advance a slide, you can just say next.
All right, thank you very much for the introduction. Hi everyone, my name is Jeff. I am the representative for Foundation Lab Simulations. Basically, what this venture is all about. Next slide, please. Our aim here is we're trying to get as many minorities and students from diverse backgrounds, which are low-income brackets typically, and women into STEM programs in colleges and universities, and after that into STEM careers. Next slide, please. So just a brief recap of the problem. The Pew Research Center did some studies a few years ago. They were trying to find out why is it that there's so few minorities majoring in STEM programs and going to college and studying engineering, math, science, and all those programs. By the way, STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. So the study yielded some pretty interesting results, particularly the lower bar on the left. The biggest contributor to why there were so many minorities majoring in STEM programs was found to be there's less interest generally in STEM fields compared to other occupations such as music and sport, for example. Other reasons that were pointed out were the lack of mentors, the lack of role models to inspire them to do these careers, and so forth. So our solution is pretty unique. Next slide, please. Our solution is quite unique because already there's many initiatives, many programs, many quotas, and many systems that are already in place to try to get as many minorities and people from disadvantaged backgrounds get into STEM in college and universities and in the workplace. But the levels of success of these various programs are too slow and they're just not very effective. So we're trying to use a very unique solution that uses technology essentially, and we're trying to see if we could do a better job essentially. Next slide, please. And so our solution will involve using an application. It's basically a platform that would be in the form of an application that students would have to download and install on their cell phones and use that to carry out lab simulations, or say they could go on a virtual engineering website and then they could find out the work that civil engineers do, or they could go in a manufacturing center, a virtual manufacturing center, find out what exactly is involved in the work that mechanical engineers, or a virtual lab, find out what research doctors do in stem cell research, and that sort of thing. The reason why we are pushing for a simulation instead of just showing people a video or a brochure or something like that, the traditional sort of systems that are used for showing people these sort of things, is that we want students to be fully engaged with what they're doing and to get some sort of learning and to get that STEM experience that can only be achieved by going through a simulation or being part of the group or going on the actual site, being in class, in lectures, and that sort of thing. We hope that by showing out students all these things and getting them to experience what the solution is all about, these labs, the work experience, and so forth, we hope to plant that interest into STEM fields that they would use later on in future, to hopefully when they are applying to get to college and stuff, they would consider a career in STEM. Next slide, please. So why we feel this is the right time to start this venture is because we are living in the middle of a global pandemic, obviously, and so this situation would require very unique solutions that would address our current situation and then still be able to function even after the pandemic ends in future. So a solution has to be viable both during a pandemic and after the pandemic. That is why technology would be the key here, because the technology that we're proposing doesn't require people to meet in person. It doesn't require any sort of physical contact. And another thing is, right now there's a lot of social unrest and a lot of pain going on out there, a lot of protests and stuff. And so we feel this solution would be the perfect way to kind of help out marginalized and minority communities to advance into the middle class by considering pursuing careers in STEM. There's already, sports is one thing they're really good at. Most minorities do sport or music. But then the levels of success in those fields, it requires a lot of talent, and not everyone has talent. Very few people have that natural born talent or skill or ability to succeed in those fields. So this leaves most people in the background. So we want to help those people by helping them out to enroll in college programs and pursue careers in STEM. Next slide, please. So the team is mostly comprised of myself currently. I am considering partnering up with my fellows who have done computer science and other software engineering teams to help out. I feel I'm capable to handle the workload at this point. I just didn't want to rush and get people on board before I gauge their level of interest and I figure out exactly how they would fit into the tapestry of what we're trying to do here. So my background is I'm a civil engineering student at the University of Toronto. I am also pursuing an engineering business minor currently. Next slide, please. So we have a few milestones in place, a few targets that we hope to hit. Starting from last year when I last pitched a similar venture, I changed it up drastically, but the venture that I pitched before was similar to this, but very different at the same time. So I had to sit down and go through the feedback that I was given by the Resolution Project. And I decided the best way to kind of recover from everything would be to just restart the entire process and come up with a venture that's more likely to succeed. And so that's the background up until this point in June 2020. Right now, we're trying to get the financing required and then begin the process. Once the financing is in place, we'll begin the platform design, the software creation, and then by October 2020, we hope to begin the beta testing, the system debugging and integration. January 2021, we hope to be ready by then to have a full launchable product in place. Right now, we just have a few prototypes that we have been using as concepts. So in future, like March 2021, the platform should be fully available and live. And with the financing options that we've analyzed, we hope to break even by July 2021. And at this point, next slide, please. I am ready to welcome any questions that you may have.
Thank you. We have just over 11 minutes for questions.
All right.
So Jeff, thank you so much for your presentation. I want to quickly dive into the actual solution that you have. So can you quickly walk me through a user experience or a user benefit out of it? So if I download the app, what happens?
All right, thank you very much for that question. Could you please go to slide number 10, page 10. Perfect, thank you so much. So basically, what the user experience is like is, as a high school student, because we're targeting high school students here, I'll explain why in a moment. So as a high school student who is not quite sure exactly what you want to do in college, or even whether or not you should go to college or university, and you're not sure what you want to do, right? So you hear about this amazing program that you could install on your cell phone, and once you download it, excuse me, you could use it on your computer device, on your phone, on your tablet, etc., whatever device that you have. You don't even need to have a continuous internet connection to use it, because once it's downloaded, that's it. It should be able to work offline and online. So students would be able to play some online games that are STEM related to kind of stir up their interest in STEM. They would also be able to go on simulated college labs carry out a few college simulated experiments. They would also be able to go on a virtual website, find out what's involved. Depending on what field they're exploring at that time, they could go to a website that's exploring mechanical engineering, technology, computer scientist office, how the work is managed in industry and that sort of thing. And then there would also be, most importantly, a questionnaire after each section. After they go through each section and they finish it, there would be a questionnaire at the end that would kind of ask them a few questions, and then they would respond to that. And then at the end of it all, once they are done, it would provide a recommendation based on their interests and skills and passions on which STEM program would be best for them. Next slide, please. So why this solution would work is because right now our target is to begin in Ontario, Canada, and in Ontario, the government last year the government produced a policy where they provided tablets to all the students in high school all the way down to elementary school who needed computer devices to learn online but from home because of the coronavirus lockdown. People had to learn from home and they couldn't go to school. So some people from disadvantaged backgrounds or who did not have a strong financial base and didn't have these devices, every student in the entire province was provided with a device that they could use for that. So we have a strong target, a market, because students do have devices. And then because of, like I said earlier, because of what's going on right now, technology would be the best solution to try out in trying to get as many minorities, disadvantaged persons, and women into STEM. And so I hope I have answered your question.
Maybe I'll add on there a follow-up for you, Jeff, is STEM's a very broad field. Where did your mind think about why going very broad versus more narrow? How can you create kind of a more personalized experience about a specific career? And do you have an initial couple of careers, I guess, to target and prototyping?
Yes, actually, that's thank you very much. That's a very good question. Let me see if I have a slide here I can use to respond to that. Anyway, so yes, personally, my background is in engineering, technology, math. I'm very good in those subjects, and so those are the sections that we've been working on so far. We haven't yet begun working on the other sides of STEM, such as medicine and health, life sciences, and those programs. I have an ally, Dr. Rahim Rezai, who will be helping me out in those regards because he has experience in that side of STEM, the health side, biology side, and stuff. But that is true. We need to focus the market. Essentially, we decided to narrow it down because there's lots of college programs out there, lots of careers. So we thought narrow it down to STEM, and then in the actual platform, when students play some fun activities when they open up the application and stuff, and then they will be able to choose which areas of STEM they would want to check out. They could either choose to go engineering, and under engineering, they could explore civil engineering, mechanical, electrical engineering, and so forth. Or they could go on the technology tab and explore computer science, software engineering, and basically, that's the arrangement that we have in mind.
Go ahead if there are other questions. Otherwise, I have a few.
Okay.
Yeah, I just quickly want to ask about your budget. What does your cost look like, or your entire budget, and for how long is that calculated for?
Right. So, Rachel, could you please go to slide 15? Right, thank you very much. So the budget we have in mind is from the resolution project, we're requesting 5,000, and that's been broken down into about 1,500 for the platform creation, the entire application, making it compatible with all the different devices and operating systems. It should be able to work with an Apple device, Microsoft, Android, Windows, and so forth. Software tools would also be required. We will need subscriptions with online programming tools such as Vuforia, Unity, and other simulation programs out there. And then the actual simulations creation for the labs, the website experiences and stuff, that would take us back about 2,000. Another miscellaneous costs like internet marketing and so forth of the final product once it's ready, that should be about 1,000. The simulation creation also involves things like buying camera equipment that will be required to capture the website environment and then edit it on the computers, on the computer softwares that we'll be using for that. And then in terms of timeline, we have a unique funding model, revenue generation model. Could you go back to the previous slide, please? Yeah, so with the revenue model that we have in place, we are kind of exploring two routes at the moment. That is paid subscriptions, ad-free. You get full access and you can use the app without any interruption whatsoever. And the second option is using the app but with ad experience, because we have to keep in mind that the communities that we're trying to help, most of them do not have the financial muscle that's required to afford some of these subscriptions. The price would be very low, to be honest. It should be within $10 to $15 range. Yeah, should be within that range. It's pretty cheap, but still we want to make it affordable, because in order for it to take off and gain the traction required, it will need to be accessible to as many people as possible. And people sometimes like to try it out first before signing up for a paid full subscription service. So with this funding, with this revenue generation model in place, we hope to break even by basically by, according to my timeline here, by July 2021, we should be able to break even.
Jeff, are you set up as a, we plan to be set up as a business or a nonprofit?
As a business.
Okay, so assumedly then what you mean by break even is you use the grant funding to get the app done in the first few courses, and then you're gonna start generating revenue off the ads or off of the cost of the app for those who can afford it, by what I understand. Is that correct?
Precisely.
And then in terms of the operation of the business, it just should churn out cash after that, right? Are you gonna reinvest the cash in future coursework or other apps? What happens after that? Otherwise it's just sitting there generating cash.
That is an excellent question. Yes, we do intend to do that. We have, right now we are considering branching out and developing more labs and expanding the business to more geographical regions. The rest of Canada is our first priority.
But Jeff, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but why would you need to be in other geographies? This is a digital app. You need to open offices, or what you mean, like expand marketing's footprint? What do you mean by expand?
Right. So by expansion, I mean, right now we're kind of, the target market that we're exploring for this is based on Ontario, Canada, but then we would need to expand eventually. And so we would have to explore targeting marketing efforts into other regions, essentially is what I mean. Say the USA, doing aggressive marketing there as well to generate more traction in those regions as well.
Do you have any idea what your customer acquisition cost would be for each incremental user?
For each incremental user, I don't have the finances at the top of my head right now, but I can definitely get back to you on that.
But you have some sort of model, because you mentioned that you would be break even in July of 21. So how much ad revenue per user do you expect?
ad revenue per user, we expect to, because we're trying to have, we're not sure exactly how the, how much ad revenue will attract, because this might take a while to get the traction needed. That's why it's taking so long to break even all the way up to 2021, because it might take us a while to get enough people on the platform to attract serious advertisers in the process. So it might take us a while to do that, but we aim to have at least 1 second, per user. We hope to have at least maybe I would say $3 to $5. But again, I will have to check back and get back to you on that.
I know we're running short on time. Tanya, you had a question. I think I saw your hand.
Yeah, real quick, where did you get the number for how much the app cost in particular? Like, did you get that from a quote or are you estimating that?
Basically, it was an estimation. And then we also looked at other companies that do kind of a service like this, not exactly like this, but similar to this, and how much they charge. And so that's how we came up with that range, essentially, for the pricing.
Okay, but for the development of the app, you came up with it that way?
Yeah, estimation. Yeah, estimation.
Okay, that's time. Thank you so much for your presentation. Just so we know, there'll be one more final presentation after this. We'll take another brief pause, and then LA Stars will be pitching.
All right, thank you very much for having me.
Hello.
Hi, we'll begin in just a moment. You'll see the slides come up and then you can start. Just a quick reminder on the process. You'll have 20 minutes total. We encourage you to take 7 minutes for the pitch and leave about 13 minutes for the Q&A. On the chat, I'll be letting you know when 6 minutes have passed and 7. Just a reminder, anytime you go beyond that does bite into the time that the judges have. And so when the slides come up, you'll be ready to go.
Okay, are we ready?
Okay.
Ready when you are.
Definitely. So my name is Jesus Raya, and I will be representing LA Stars. I just wanted to start off by echoing the sentiments of Mr. Libby when he said that we are all going through a lot right now, not only in the US, but also around the world, specifically with the rise of COVID and the social unrest that we see everywhere in the news right now. As such, I wanted to come out and say that LA Stars was specifically organized, and we did create everything as a response to a lot of the issues that the Black Lives Matter movement is expressing right now, specifically on issues of things like school policing and the inadequate mental health services that we see in schools. Next slide, please. Okay, so as such, our vision is to create a safe space for marginalized risk students to tackle sensitive issues that are often overlooked. These can include, but are not limited to, things such as destigmatizing mental health problems and, sexual health education, professionalism, and the school to prison pipeline. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so our STAR summer program is what we dreamed up of in response to all of these issues. This would be a program that we do in the summer, and it would be our pilot to our 2-year program. But right now, specifically for the purposes of the summer program timeline, we begin on Monday, where we set up workshops on goal settings, and we teach our kids essentially how to define success for themselves. And we do this specifically through a worksheet that we call the action plan. And in this action plan, we have a formula that defines success for them. And it says, I will blank within an X amount of time for the purposes of. And this X amount of time, there are 2 definitions for that. And there's one that is for short-term goals, which is within a semester, and a long-term one, which is within the whole school year. So they will be filling out these goals specifically for personal goals and for academic goals, both within the short-term and the long-term. And so this will be essentially how we measure their own success and their growth within our organization and our program, because like I said, this will be following them for 2 years. On Tuesday, we will focus on professional development and college readiness. This will be anything from etiquette, dinner etiquette, email etiquette, phone etiquette. We have things such as mock interviews or how to dress for interviews, and along with other workshops. On Wednesday, we will have sexual education. We are partnered right now with UC Berkeley. And so they will be giving us all of the help that we need for that. On Thursday, we will focus on mental wellness, and this will be specifically on how we could use the arts or spoken word as a tool for expression. We will dive into some meditation, some like other forms of relaxations, and this will be led by Angelino poet, Mike Songson. And then on Friday, we will look into the prison industrial complex and the school to prison pipeline, and essentially teach people about their rights with some legal scholars. Next slide, please. So this essentially goes over what I just talked about, but I did want to reiterate that this summer program is, like I said, the pilot for our 2-year program and of the intro. And so we're not fully diving into all of these things. This merely serves as an intro course where we basically kind of dip our toe in to what exactly we're going to be teaching in our 2-semester program. Next slide, please. So for our 2-year-long program, we will have the 4 topics discussed. Through online workshops and podcasts, we will be using platforms such as Google Classrooms that people are already familiar with, and that comes at no extra cost to our students. And we will be using Zoom calls once a month to check in with them as a whole in a group. And then we will have individual check-ins once at the start of the semester and one at the end of the semester, discussing their action plans and all of their goals that they have and how we could better help them to reach those goals. Next slide, please. Okay, so our podcasts, we're going to be our for sure way of how we get information out to the students. Like I said, we will be using other videos and other articles that we will be sending them and everything. But through these podcasts, we were looking specifically to interview other, let's say, POC professionals or other people who have already gone through our program in the future, speaking, just interviews one-on-one on the different things that we're trying to talk, the different topics that we're trying to talk about. Next slide, please. Okay. So basically, this just goes over more in depth about the action plans, which are for personal goals, academic goals, and even post-grad goals. This is a program for high school students. I'm not sure if I mentioned that, but basically it is for high school students in the junior year, and it follows them through their graduation. Next slide, please. Okay, and then this is our team right now with the founders and the marketing manager, who has done a lot of work trying to get us to have money, fundraise, and everything. Like I said, well, like as this is a STARS team that's trying to promote a sense of success to all races, we do have a lot of other people of color within our team. And I think that that is something that is very important to have, you know, to see people who look like you leading other people like you. So essentially having people who have gone through experiences similar as you, teaching you about how to get through those experiences is essentially what we are trying to teach. Next slide, please. Our partners and affiliations right now, specifically, we have been in contact with Social Justice Institute, which is an organization that we are seeking to partner with, specifically in our battle against the school to prison pipeline. We are looking to teach their students about all of that stuff while they, in turn, we could team up with them in order to combat against it, actually. Along with the partnerships with Sexual Health Education of UC Berkeley, and Mike Songson, the Los Angeles poet, for podcasts and the help within the mental wellness. Next slide, please. Okay, so our goals are to be very self-sustained. And so what we're trying to do is essentially get the people who have gone through our programs to be the leaders of the following program, and so on and so forth. Next slide, please. Okay, so for our funding, like I said, our marketing has done a lot of work in order to try to get us more money. Right now, specifically, we're looking into merchandise, such as hoodies and stickers, etc. We have a lot of in-kind donation services that have been offered to us, with so many people ready and willing to help tackle these issues that we've laid out here today, and fundraising from social media campaigns and collegiate and high school clubs. So what we're looking to do, like I said, is be very self-sustained. We're planning on creating clubs within our university campuses dedicated to the STARS organization to provide mentors and teachers for the oncoming program students, and to allocate their club funds for our STARS programs. Next slide, please. So our impact overall, we're trying to create empowered students who are looking towards personal success as defined through their own version of success through their goals within a safe community. Thank you.
Thanks, Jesus. I think we have about 10 minutes left, maybe just a little bit under. Judges?
Bill here. Well, first I was to start with safety. So just to let you know, Jesus, you have to change your batteries in your smoke detector because it's been chirping. So I just always want to do that because you never know what might happen. But please, safety number one. Two, just thinking about your target locations. I guess I wasn't quite able to follow. I mean, clearly you're focused on Los Angeles, I guess. And do you have particular target locations you're working in Los Angeles? You can tell us a little bit about partnerships in the Los Angeles area.
Okay, so right now we are pretty spread apart, the people who are within the team, but the partnership right now that we are working with is specifically in Inglewood, California, which is really like 2 blocks down where I live, which is why I know about it and which is why I've been in contact with them right now. So ideally, like I do know the LA County is a very big, broad area. Ideally, we were going to have people from whichever high schools that we've just kind of outreach to. specifically to pull in the students. And depending on where the students come from, the majority of them, we were going to try to find like partnerships with people close to their communities. So we wanted to make this as like closely driven to our people, essentially the people that we're teaching are the people that we want to neighbor with.
And a quick follow-up on that. So if you get in the high school students, both junior and high school, where will the programs be run?
Okay, so ideally, again, we were going to send that information once we figured out which schools particularly we were going to be working with. So depending on the only time that we would need an actual like physical location would be when we have stuff like the summer program. Right now, because of COVID, we were planning on, if we were going to do the summer program this year, all plans were supposed to be online. Specifically for the 2-semester program, everything is online with exception for the winter and summer breaks when we meet each other for a celebration. And like I said, summer program, once all this with COVID-19 is over, we would just need, we were planning on having it in a, let's say, kind of like a park recreation area to upset the costs for our students so that they don't have to pay as much, because we are planning on looking for people within low socioeconomic backgrounds, specifically for the pilot. So wherever is best for them, as in the proximity of the area of the people that we're targeting.
Okay, just a quick one on that also, just piggyback off that. Online, how do you motivate them? How do you track success? How do you track, people actually getting immersed in the program and benefiting from the program if it's just completely online?
Okay, so specifically, we were planning on using Google Classrooms. And I know through Google Classrooms, you can do things like that are very interactive. So whether it be like little quizzes or little videos that you have them watch, we were planning on doing, like I said, the meetups, every month meetup, where we would essentially be interacting. We would be talking about everything that they had learned, like discussions, workshops, all that stuff would be things that we just, we are personally like reaching out to them, not only as like the group in Zoom settings, but also through the individual. So I really think that, yes, sadly, it would be up to them whether or not they choose to go through with the program. But seeing as this is beneficial for them and for ongoing scholars, we truly believe that they will, which would be the purpose of them being in it. And to incentivize this, we were planning on some scholarships. And I feel like this would be something that we would push into them about the idea of like resume building that we put in our STARS summer program, that they could write this down and they could potentially become mentors once they conclude the program.
Tanya, any questions? Otherwise, I have a lightning round.
Go. I might piggyback on your lightning round.
Okay, Jesus, we can just go with quick answers on these, but we just want them all answered. So the budget that you presented, can you just tell us what the costs are? And that's the 1-week program, right? Not the 4-semester program.
Yes. Okay. So for the budget that I submitted, really the things that we're looking for right now are specifically the microphone and the camera, so that we could start with the podcasts. And that would be the $54.99 for the microphone and the $114.91 for the camera. For the food and the venue for the summer program, we allocated around $2,500, and that was just kind of an estimate. We don't know exactly where our location is going to be.
Okay.
We did put that it was going to be kind of like a recreational area so that we could like offset costs. And as for the rest, it would just be specific things, so like pens and papers, markers, etc.
Sure. So, and then in terms of revenue, I mean, this is going to be philanthropically funded. You would expect donations and such, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Do you have any idea what the cost of the first 2-year program would look like? If you don't need to estimate. Just let me know if you have an idea.
Honestly, right now, no, only because really the only costs that I foresee are any who don't do in-kind donations through their services with like the interviews and everything. Like I said, since this all is online,
Sure.
we are trying to limit the costs for the person. Like we don't really foresee much expenses happening.
Yep, that's fine. Again, quick answers, but have you had any experts on teaching review like the action plan and the curriculum that you're delivering?
So right now, yes, we're looking towards, we are looking for other people who are looking at our curriculum. We haven't built it yet, like the full set of it, like all the videos and everything. But as for the action plan and everything, like such as like the specifically the formula that I used were all built up and created by ex-teachers or current professionals right now.
Got it. A couple of other quick questions. Have you thought about what happens if you become a kind of a trusted partner for these students in delivering this information? You may be also their first stop if they end up in crisis or in contact with the incarceration system. What are your thoughts about you being kind of the organization of first turn for them?
Okay, so right now I do work for a legal clinic who does provide some services like attorney services. And so that was something that I was planning on opening up with and partnering with to get those people to come in and speak to our kids specifically about legal issues.
So you would have legal clinic, mental health clinic, it's a kind of on call?
Yes.
Okay. And then last but not least, you would commit obviously to having appropriate controls around dealing with minors as beneficiaries, right?
I'm sorry.
If you bring in teachers, for example, that are obviously adults and they're dealing with minors and teaching them, there's usually a lot of regulations around how you do.
Like British training and everything that like yes, that would be necessary for sure.
I know we're short on time. Any final questions?
Yeah, real quick, what I didn't notice in here was anything around legal, actually. So are you already established as like a nonprofit entity? And additionally, are you looking at insurance since you are working with minors in a very interesting situation?
Yes. So right now, yes, we are looking to become a nonprofit. And yes, we are looking into a lot of that specifically for forms that are needed for like parent signatures and everything for them to be like to sign off that their kids are okay to come to this and everything. We're looking into this.
Do you know your cost on that? Like what you need on that?
No, not right now, but we were planning on, because we did, like I said, inflate some of the prices on like the venue and the food. We were looking on allocating those resources, and specifically things like that could even come from my own pocket about like the pens and the markers, trying to get some of those resources allocated into that.
Great, thank you so much. We're at time. Thank you very much for your presentation. That wraps all of our presentations today. Thank you very much to all of our competitors. Very big thank you to all of our judges. I'm going to turn it back over to Oliver Libby very quickly to make some final comments.
Great, Rachel, thank you so much. And thank you to all the competitors who presented today. First of all, I know we're virtual, but a big round of applause for the presenters. It is very hard to do that in person. It's even harder to do it on Zoom, and in many cases, even in second languages and from very far away with tough internet connections. So again, our hats are off to all of you, and we're really grateful for the great ideas that you shared with us. While not everyone may become a Resolution Fellow, all of you are planning to do good things for your communities, and we've even had folks join our program after a third pitch. So stay strong if it doesn't work out this time. Now, the competitors should be hearing from us by Monday. If you don't, please reach out to Rachel because something has gone wrong. So you should hear yes or a no. For those who do not proceed into the Resolution Fellowship, you will once again receive detailed feedback, and that can keep building your programs. Everything here is in order to promote your success as social entrepreneurs, whether you end up as a Resolution Fellow or not. The announcements will be made on Wednesday at noon and noon Eastern time, and that is something that you'll be able to follow live or see afterwards on Resolution's Facebook. We're going to be super excited. Normally, when we're all in person in a big auditorium with hundreds or thousands of people, it's a big energy event when we do the Resolution Fellowship announcements. We're going to try and do the same thing digitally, so help us out with that. If you're on the live stream, come and join us Wednesday at noon Eastern for the announcements. So we've got to welcome new fellows and Social Venture Challenge winners with a lot of energy and positivity for the journey they're about to undertake. Just a few other things before we close today. A big thanks also to all the judges, and you are all terrific, and your wisdom is going to be critical as we go into deliberations now, because the judges' work in many cases basically starts now when everyone else signs off the feed. I really want to thank the staff, Rachel and everyone, Toby, everyone who's been involved today, Antoinette, thank you, and many others. Without you, and particularly in these challenging work from home circumstances, this digital social venture challenge would not have been possible. And then last but not least, I want to close where we started, which is, at least for me, and I think for everyone on this call and on the Resolution team, this is just, this is the kind of thing that gives us hope. In a time of challenge and when lots of things look like, frankly, a compilation of the worst things that can be thrown at us, from viruses to the worst that humanity can show, we are also presented with the best that humanity can show, which is leadership, a dedication to helping others, a time to step up, which is now, and taking action and not waiting until tomorrow. And if these things are things we promote here at Resolution, and they can catch hold around the world in the hearts and the minds of amazing students like the ones who presented today, then everything is going to be okay for us all, because this is where we get positive change in the world. So as you turn on the televisions and you read the news and you think it's overwhelming how tough things are, this is where we find solutions and hope and action. So again, to everyone who presented and to the whole Resolution community, thank you so much for joining us today, and for sharing these ideas. We appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you Wednesday at noon